Well, they say that you're a fool. You believe in magic.
I'm Paranormal Pete, and I'm on a journey to seek answers to the questions that have crossed all of our minds. What happens to us when we die? Is there an afterlife? I'm a regular guy who discovered the gift of psychic mediumship in my 30s. My passion for history and the unknown have put me right here, right now. My mantra for anything paranormal is, we don't know much and anything is possible. Join me as we find our way through the stories, evidence, and experiences of the paranormal and beyond in search of answers, even if that leads to more questions. Are you with me?
Some hocus pocus filling up inside. And I think somebody's making
Hey everybody, welcome to the Paranormal Pete Show. I'm your host, Pete Orbea, and we are on the Sacred Spiral Network, and I hope you get a chance to not only check out this show, but check out all the other shows on the network, sacredspiralnetwork.com. There's a lot of great shows and a lot of really cool topics that are covered every week, and you can actually learn a lot of stuff that can help you out in life. So I hope you check it out, sacredspiralnetwork.com. We're broadcasting live on various pages. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, let us know, say hi, join the conversation, and I'll try and get as many comments up on the screen as I can. I'm running the ones and twos here, so we know how that goes. But welcome to the show. We've got a great show tonight. I'm really excited to see where the conversation goes tonight, and hope that you, the listeners and viewers, will join in as well and ask questions, and we'll go from there. I've got a few people checking in already. Okay, Wheezy, how's it going? And Cindy, thanks for being here, you guys. We've got special guest tonight, Amanda Paulson, coming on from Pretty Effin' Spooky, so you'll want to check that out. And I'm really excited to talk to her. She was just at the Port Gamble Ghost Conference. It was our 16th annual. There was a lot of people this year. It was our biggest conference ever, and Amanda added such a great part to it, so I'm excited to talk to her tonight. We just had our 16th annual. The conference next year, if you're wondering, is going to be November 6th through the 8th next year, and it'll be our 17th annual. I'm very proud to be a part of it since the second annual, and helping to run it and coordinate it since then. So I guess I've been doing it a long time. I might be getting old, I don't know. But it was such a great community feeling event this time, which it usually feels that way, but it felt more so this year. If you were at the conference, comment, let us know you were there. Like I said, it was our biggest one ever, and the coolest part was there were so many new faces this year, which kind of tells me that, even more people are kind of being more open to discussing the paranormal, and just the exploring the subject in itself, and exploring their own selves, looking within before looking outwards. And so it was such a cool experience. We had Kelly from the Psychic Hour, Numerology Hour, and she's the main person for Sacred Spiral Network. She was there and did a class and a numerology demonstration, so big thanks to her for making the trip up for that. Owl and Ren, y'all did such amazing work. It's a lovely community. Thank you very much. It's such a great community, I think, in the Pacific Northwest. I'm usually stuck here in Port Gamble, so I haven't, I'm always stuck here, so I haven't gone to a lot of other conferences, but I feel like there's a really good community up here in the Pacific Northwest. Marie saying hello. Anything for me, please? Well, this I don't think we're going to be getting into readings tonight, but perhaps you can book a reading separately. You can go to portgambleparanormal.com. I'll put that in the comments, and you can book a reading there. Here we go on the ones and twos. Thank you. One of these days, I promise I will be doing a reading show. Possibly next month or January. We'll see. But thank you. Thanks for commenting. Yeah, so, anyways, it was just such a cool experience. I'll also mention that if you like the intro music to the show, that's my band, Steady Rock Cosmonaut. That's a song called Magic. It's one of my favorite ones we do. We got a show coming up next Saturday on the 29th. It's a food bank benefit show. It's kind of going all day long down in Port Orchard, Washington. So check out steadyrockcosmonaut.com or follow us on the socials. But if you like that tune, that's Steady Rock Cosmonaut. And then a couple other things I got coming up. I've got a Ghost Walk tour on December 13th. It's a Saturday. It's not a Friday, unfortunately, but it's the Saturday. And that is a 3-hour tour around Port Gamble where we talk about the history and all the ghost stories. And we actually, a couple weeks ago on a private tour, had a really cool experience. We may have seen a full-bodied apparition outside, which was just odd. There was a person, me and multiple people on the tour saw this person. I shined my flashlight on the person. I said, "Hey, who's down there?" And they seemed to just vanish. I don't know where they could have gone, but that was really interesting. So you never know what's going to happen on the tours. And so the next one's coming up on December 13th. We got Katie, good friend of the show. Hey, good evening. Welcome on. And then, of course, coming up, another conference, which is a really great one to go to, is the Oregon Ghost Conference. So you want to go to OregonGhostConference.com. And that one is March 27th through the 29th coming up, and it's in Seaside, Oregon. And so a lot of the community up here kind of comes to the Port Gamble conference and also goes to the Oregon Ghost Conference. And again, it's just a part of this really good community of people. So hopefully you'll check that out. Well, I want to kind of get into things because there's some really cool subjects that we're going to be talking about tonight. So our guest tonight, our special guest, Amanda Paulson, she's a paranormal investigator, a medium, an artist based in Eastern Washington. She began investigating in 2008 and in 2019 started sharing her research and explorations on Pretty Effin' Spooky. That's Pretty FN Spooky. It's her social media platform. Through her paranormal emotive touchpoint and odd emotions theories, Amanda helps others deepen their connection with the paranormal by centering emotions in their investigations. So let's give a big Paranormal Pete Show welcome to Amanda Paulson.
Hi. Woo. Hello. Thanks for
What?
having me.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come on the show. And you've got you've had a lot of cool experiences. We're going to get into some of that. But tell us a little bit about, what you do in the paranormal field. I know you have a book that's going to be coming out in August of 2027. So tell us a little about what you do in the paranormal field and then a little bit about your book that's going to be coming out.
Yeah, so I'm based in Spokane, Washington. I've been paranormal investigating since 2008. I started on a team in Montana, and I've been experiencing the paranormal since I was a kid, but I changed directions in 2019 when I started Pretty Effin' Spooky to share about my insights and explorations into the paranormal as a solo investigator and researcher. So now my whole thing is about sharing with the public, everything I think about the paranormal and everywhere I travel and all the cool people that I meet. And a big part of that too is my research into odd emotions, as you mentioned in my intro. and the paranormal emotive touchpoint theory. And that's what my book is about. I just got a book deal with HarperCollins, and I have a book called Odd Emotions coming out in August 2027. So, yeah, I love talking about the paranormal. I've been doing it for a very long time, but I'm not on a team right now. I do it by myself, and I have a slightly different way of looking at things, I think. Not that I mean to be like, I'm different. What a way to introduce myself to the crowd. Hey guys, I'm different. No,
It's okay to be different.
yeah. I'm just like the little circle of whatever weirdness that I live in. It's just kind of like I'm all about everything high strangeness. I'm all about centering, like you said, emotions in paranormal investigating, and yeah, that's what I love. So I'm really happy to be here.
It's great, and it's totally fine to be different. Especially in the paranormal field, because I mean, nothing's rock solid, right? And so it's good to be different and try different things, because you never know what's going to work. What if you stumble on like an amazing way to communicate that is, very credible, and but you wouldn't know unless you tried some different things. We got some more people checking in saying hey. Melinda says, Pete, are you psychic? That's what the spirits tell me. I do mediumship, but I didn't start doing that until my 30s, where I like to joke the universal 2x4 hit me in the head and said that I'm going to think about things differently. So thanks for asking, and there'll be more shows where I'll get a lot more into that. But tonight we're talking with Amanda. I got Joni saying good evening. Thanks for joining. Love this one. Owlin Red says Amanda is pretty effing rad.
That's sweet. I love that. Thank you.
And Melinda's saying, hey, Amanda. And, Christy's saying hello as well. Melinda's saying the universal 2x4 hits her too. She wanted to ask a question. Melinda, you can ask a question real quick. Go ahead. But while you're queuing that up, you mentioned you kind of you're a solo investigator. You've been kind of doing that. Same sort of thing. I used to be on a team and investigate with a lot of different people. But I kind of been doing my own thing the last few years. What's some of the pros of it? Like, what are some of the benefits you found in doing your own solo thing? And then conversely, what are some of the cons about it? What are some of the challenges? But, what have you found that's been like kind of a cool, maybe a surprise benefit of like doing solo?
Yeah. Also, first of all, I want to say that I also came into my psychic abilities in my 30s. So I just want to like echo
that's
that
cool.
That's okay. And I started pretty effing spooky when I was 29. I'm 35 now. And so like my life changed in my 30s. So anyway, I very much resonate with that. But as far as paranormal investigating solo, the obvious challenges to that are physical, real life, human safety. That can be a struggle. And oftentimes I'll have to, truthfully, and I don't think I'm saying too much. I when I share online, it's delayed, or I'll have to be mindful of not sharing where I'm at in real time. I don't do lives for that reason. Because I'll be alone a lot of the time. Or I mean, I'm not alone. If anyone creepy
Sure.
is watching this now. But I love investigating solo though, for the fact that I can listen more carefully. I love people and I love chatting. I can yap forever. I love talking with people, but I get very silly and I have a lot of fun when I'm investigating with people. And I like the seriousness that being alone adds to it, and the quietness to listen to what is actually happening. And I think you might relate to this, but I also often go into a place of like facilitating if I'm in a group setting where I am not able to just literally sit with myself and my feelings and my thoughts about the supernatural aspect of what's happening. Instead, I'll be very concerned about what's happening with the whole, with the living people, which is okay. Like that's a huge part of what I do. But But if I really want to dig into the investigating and the research of the non-living, then being alone is very effective for me in really like being in tune with the activity that's happening.
Yeah, well, it seems like you can have a much more controlled environment, right? When you're the only one in the space, you don't have everyone else's emotions and energy that they're bringing in, or their spirits, their guardian angels or spirit guides, coming in with them. I find that often on like my public investigations or my
Mm-hmm.
tours. We're in the Walker Ames house, and I'm like feeling all kinds of stuff around. Then I realize, yeah, okay, it's with the people that came here
Yeah.
tonight. It's not they're not from the space.
I
You
do
know,
love that though. Yeah, I like that you say that, because on public investigations, I love recognizing that and leaning into it though. I think that's a really untapped aspect of investigating with other people
yeah,
is playing with the energies that show up in that moment, and not always just pulling out the spirits that exist in that haunted location. People get too defeated, I think, sometimes by going on an investigation with a big group of people and nothing happens. They are not able to reach the spirit that typically haunts the location, when in reality you're sitting on 10 human beings that have all sorts of stuff they're carrying with them, and you can really
yeah.
experiment with that, and like it can be very cool.
Yeah, and yeah, I love that. Yeah, you can experiment with it, and maybe, well, I always tell people too, most of the time when you're investigating, it feels like nothing happens. But that's why you record stuff. That's why you collect data that you can go through, later on. Melinda had a good comment. You have to be around positive, good-hearted people with good energy. Otherwise, not worth it. And I would say, yeah, you want to have, if you're going to investigate with people, or if you're in a large group, like it's better to like have a positive view.
It can get very funky and very weird when not everyone's on the same
Yeah. Or
yeah.
awkward.
Yeah, it can.
Um,
I've been on a lot of, as a solo investigator, I've hopped in on a lot of public investigations and
yeah.
teams, and like I've been with like all sorts of different groups of people, and it's rare, but every now and then you get one kind of stinker in there, and
Yeah.
then it just like gets super weird, especially if it's active, like paranormally active, and then it's like, what is
Yeah.
going on? So I
Yeah,
feel
and that
that.
can mess with the energies going on from the location too, or the spirits. It can make them kind of standoffish too. Alicia's saying hello, thanks for watching. Yeah, my favorite one of it wasn't quite an awkward situation, but it was a funny one. My favorite one was leading a public investigation, and we all got quiet and listening, and then we hear somebody fell asleep.
I've
And
had
it was
that literally happen I'll never forget, there was this one investigation with the team that I started on in 2008. And this team was awesome. They were so serious, and like I learned so much from them. And we had this one guy there on the team who was so sweet, but he was notorious for falling asleep on investigations. And there was this one investigation where it was so active. It was one of like 2 times ever where I remember having intelligent communication through a K2, where it was just like 40 minutes of constant, like, do this and it would do it, do this and it would do it. And it was just incredible. Of
That's
course,
a long time.
I'm not kidding. And we could have gone longer, except for our friend was snoring in the back, and we had a digital recorder going with an EVP session. So we were like, we need to reset. And then of course the moment was gone. But he was great. He added a fun element to the team, which I still appreciate.
Yeah, well, that's important too when you're in a team setting to have some fun while you're doing it too, and not take yourself too seriously. Well, so on that team, or just where you're at now, what's a couple places that you've investigated that you like to go back to, like multiple times? Where's a couple places you like to go to?
Yeah, so one place here, I'll say first, the place locally that I go to often is St. Ignatius Hospital. They're only an hour away and they're great. And I love visiting them if it's active, if it's not active, if I'm just hanging out with the people that work there,
Yeah.
I love going there. And then another place I like to mention, being one of my favorites, is the Panama Hotel in Seattle, Washington, which is
Okay.
not a like known haunted location. And honestly, I need to check with them if they're okay with me mentioning its hauntedness, because
Sure.
I've told this story a few times on podcasts, and I'm like, maybe I should check with them. But the Panama Hotel is really cool. Their history is really rich. They have I think it's the last like untouched Japanese bathhouse, like historic Japanese bathhouse in their basement,
Wow.
which still has it has like suitcases and like relics from like when it was last used, 100 years ago or whatever.
Wow.
And they have a hotel in the top. They have a coffee shop and then a hotel in the top. And I rented it once through Airbnb, and it was not advertised as haunted, but I thought it was so weird feeling. It felt like it had a lot of potential. So I rented it again to stay there. This was when I was filming a documentary out on the Olympic Peninsula. And so I often had to stay in Seattle. I rented it again. And in my room, I was woken up to the sound of two people talking to each other right next to my ear, but it sounded like it was coming through a like 1940s radio, which I've never experienced this phenomena before. Or no, that's a lie. I actually did experience this again just a year ago, but it had been that was the second time I'd ever experienced this, where the Class A EVP,
Yeah.
I'm hearing it with my ears, comes through like it's coming through a radio, which aligns with what a lot of what we're doing in the paranormal, with a
Yeah.
lot of different methods and stuff that we
Yeah.
use. But yeah, and then in that hotel too, I tried to fall back asleep. I was scared, honestly. I was like, I don't want to deal with this right now. But I tried to fall back asleep, and it woke me up again. Somebody shaking this like brass headboard, like brass tubing. It was
Yeah.
shaking awake, and it wasn't an earthquake. So that place was really active, and it's very weird and in a cool way, very historic. And yeah, it's one of my favorite places I've ever been. And then last place I'll mention, but to relate it to that, the other time I experienced auditory like phenomena like that was last year. I was taking a trip for Nevada State, like the Division of Tourism. I've worked with them a couple times, and they had me go through Eureka, Nevada. And Eureka, Nevada is very known to be haunted. Their most
Yeah.
famous location is the Jackson Hotel. Am I saying that right? Hopefully, whatever.
I
Um,
I think so. I mean, I haven't been there, but I've heard about Eureka.
Yeah, so there's a hotel there that's like the famous hotel. I can't remember what it was because it wasn't active. To be honest, I had a nice night of sleep and that was it there. But what was really active was there was an antique store on the main strip of Eureka, and in the back to the bottom of the antique store is an entrance into the tunnels that run underground. But this tunnel system, it's like just a convergence of like where other tunnels were going to go, but those tunnels never really got dug or like used as much. So I think some of them did, but a lot of them did not. And then one of them was actually used to transport children to and from school, which is very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird. Because the school was like behind the building or so, I don't know. But I investigated those tunnels by myself on this trip, and I was singing. I was trying to use like this idea of like, for some reason I had it in my head that they wanted singing. And so I'm singing and I'm like not a good singer. And I'm singing and I stop, and I caught it on camera. There's a video on my Instagram if anyone's interested in watching it. It has quite a few views. And I stopped singing, and you can hear people talking. And in real life, what it sounded like was people talking through a radio. But it was so confusing because it was just right across the room. But your brain tries to make it logical,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it cannot be coming from the source where there is nothing there. So my brain was like, is it up the stairs and out the door or something? And I'm like, no, I'm in this tunnel. like deep in this tunnel, and I heard those voices, and it was very similar to the thing at the Panama Hotel, and I'm like states away, like
Yeah.
it was very interesting. So those are some of my favorite places that I've
Well,
been.
that's really interesting because it kind of makes me think that when there's the right setting for something from the other side to come through, that's how you're getting it. That's how you're receiving the experience. If you're having that kind of similar type sound, did you when you were hearing it, and especially in like the Panama Hotel where it was seemed to be so close, what were you feeling when that was going on? Was your stomach going crazy? Your nerves? Like, what were you feeling in those times?
Yeah, so I like that you asked this because truthfully, what I felt both times, but especially at the Panama Hotel, was fear.
Okay.
And I, you know, I've heard a lot of naysayers say we should not be afraid at this point in a career in the paranormal or as a psychic medium, especially that fear kind of gets removed or replaced with like a deeper understanding.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I'm getting there. Maybe that's something I'll attain. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I'm still very much afraid of phenomena that is really in my face because I'm always seeking it and I'm always trying to pull it out, that when it's just there all of a sudden and I wasn't expecting it or I wasn't asking for it,
Yeah.
the visceral feeling that I feel is related to fear. It's I want to climb under the covers. I want to turn away. I'm afraid to open my eyes because I don't know what's going to be staring back at me. And I still struggle with fighting that all the time. And then at the Eureka tunnels, I forced myself. I was filming myself, which helped. Not on live, but just even with a camera, it helps to make you a little bit more brave, But that I did walk towards, but I
Yeah.
could have done more. There was a whole area I could have really explored or like sat in, and I that was a sneeze, not a ghost. Of something in my apartment.
What was that?
It's a ghost. But yeah, I was scared. So yeah, in answer to your question, the feelings that I have are like that
Yeah.
gut. It's a very interesting feeling. If anyone's ever had sleep paralysis, that first like or even like a nightmare, that heart rate or heartbeat
The jump.
racing, yeah, that
Yeah.
jump
The
and
ugh.
that kind of like weird sort of nervous feeling, yeah, it's that
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Ren just did a great comment. You're still human. Fear is telling us to pay attention, and I was just gonna say something like that. Like, I get freaked out. I get startled. When you're not expecting something, and all of a sudden something happens right next to you. I mean,
Hmm.
um, y- y- I don't buy by now you shouldn't, have any fear and things. I think if you lose that fight or flight response, which makes you really pay attention. It can make you hyper aware.
Hmm.
Um, it,
Well,
you
it
know,
also can help protect you if there is like a real physical danger too. There's a reason why your body is making that reaction. That
uh,
happened again to me in Tombstone this year. I was in these mines investigating with groups, and I had some time alone, and I was down there alone, and I saw this shadow figure in the back of like one of the mining areas, tunnels,
mhm,
and scared again, but also recognizing that I was very vulnerable in that moment. And my body was telling me, like, be careful, don't go down that
yeah,
tunnel. But also, my friend Steve Berg said once, and I think about it a lot, he said that bravery is not bravery, you can still be scared and be brave. Like, bravery is just doing it anyway? And I think that that's like so apt for what a lot of people in the paranormal are doing. They're very
yeah,
brave.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're exploring the unknown, which is inherently fearful, and we just can't get over however many thousands or millions of years or whatever you believe in, years of evolution that has taught us when we have been prey for most of the time.
Hmm. Yeah.
Our bodies evolved that way, and so like you just got to roll with it. I think there's
Hmm.
I don't think you should fight it.
Yeah.
Just let it happen what is going to happen, but hopefully you've got some tools to kind of try and maybe collect data that you can back up your experience with. Yeah, no, that's great. Great answer. Brian Blackwood, hey guys, he was at the Ghost Conference too. Melinda was asking if it was okay to ask a readings question, probably for a different show, but thank you for asking. I appreciate that. So, great stories, by the way, and cool experiences. I've had a couple of experiences myself where the voice is happening like right in front of you, but you can clearly see that nothing is in front of you, but
Yeah.
feeling it. And one of the reasons I wanted to ask, like, what you were feeling is in the times that I've had that happen, it was like when the voice spoke, it was like a gut punch, like the your solar plexus goes, whoa,
Yeah. I feel
and you
like that's
feel
a
it.
very accurate way to describe it. And I think that I'm feeling somewhat similar. It
Yeah,
is also interesting the way that your brain fires off, which I'm sure people have done research into this that are much smarter than me, but the way your brain fires when truly unexplainable phenomena happens. And there's a nuance to this because of course we experience a lot as we're investigating a lot, but even on all of the investigations that I've been on, it's not that often where I'm experiencing something truly like very big like that. Like I
yeah,
would consider a class A EVP to be very big, especially when
yeah,
you're alone and there's just like
sure,
no way to debunk it. And so those are like special times that stand out in all of the years of investigating. And then of
yeah,
course there's other cool stuff that happens when you review your stuff and like that's cool too, but when it happens right in front of you it's so different. And the way your brain is like, I cannot explain that, and you still try
yeah,
to explain it. It's like I've been the first ghost that I experienced was when I was 7 years old, and since then I'm still trying to apply logic where logic can't be applied, you know?
yeah. Well, and at some point, I'm sure you've just kind of accepted what had happened and what you think happened. And so when you were young, the first experience I can remember was around 7 years old as well, that I can really fully vividly remember. Did you have experiences like through your teenage years, kind of like, was it kind of an everywhere you went play, you had something weird happen? How did it go for you growing up?
Yeah. Um, I first experienced a ghost, I think, a vase moving on its own in my bedroom when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And I asked my mom to switch me bedrooms because I thought that that would be the remedy for it. I was just like,
Yeah.
well, this ghost is in this bedroom. I'm going to go to the other one. And really, at the time, too, I didn't have the words to even say ghost. I was just like, this is weird and I want away from
Yeah.
it. Switched rooms. As long as I was at that house, it didn't happen again, but I had really vivid nightmares for a long time. And then I moved out. I was living with my mom at the time, and then I moved out and moved in with my grandma. And this is kind of like tells you a lot about my childhood is that I then was raised by my grandma. So my first experience in the paranormal also coincides with a time in my life that I think there's a lot of repressed memory and like childhood trauma. Um, then I moved to my grandma's, and then I continue to have paranormal experiences from
Yeah.
there on. And that's when I think my awareness got kind of I don't know, like it was almost like somebody turned my head and then all of a sudden I could kind of see the full spectrum of it all. And then it just kept happening. I know some people explain it like that they're a beacon or that like the spirits like are drawn to you. And I think that that's true in some scenarios, but for me in particular, I think it was just that my attention got redirected and then I leaned into it and I was like, wait, what
Yeah.
is this? Wait, this is interesting, you know? And then it happened through high school, which is what led to me joining the paranormal or the ghost hunting group. I'll call it ghost hunting group. It was true 2008 ghost hunting group. We were very inspired by like early ghost hunters and
Yeah.
ghost adventures. But um yeah, it inspired me to join there. And I joined as an empath. I didn't have to join as something, but there was kind of this unspoken sort of expectation that I would fill a role, because
Yeah.
there was the psychic and the tech guy and whatever. And I was like, well, I'm, I feel a lot. I cry a lot. I'm like very emotional person.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm an empath, and I don't identify as an empath now. I don't think that I am, but yeah, and then that's how it happened. It's just always been a part of my life since I made my mom switch me rooms, and my
Yeah.
family's known it. It's a part of my life since then too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, when you look back and all the different experiences you've had with different people, um, what do you think about? I mean, the when someone goes through, you mentioned repressed memories, or there was a time in life where there's a lot going on. Um, you know, I've worked on some cases where it seemed like poltergeist activity, but it was living poltergeist, where you find out then the claimant has gone through, some really traumatic events. But it does kind of seem like, what are your thoughts on, when people are going through a lot, whether it's really good or really bad, the other side of things kind of come through a little different, or they maybe start coming through, or like in your case, your attention was kind of redirected in life. In my life, same sort of thing. That's a great way to put it. Your attention's kind of redirected. So what are your thoughts on like us breathing people when we're having a traumatic experience, or a stressful time, or maybe it's a really happy, like tons of emotions? Does that bring more paranormal activity, do you think?
Absolutely. And I talk a little bit about this in my book, which hasn't come out yet, so I won't spoil it too
Yeah,
much.
don't.
I'm getting used to not talking about everything all the time. But yes, I absolutely think that it brings brings to you more paranormal activity. I think that it heightens existing paranormal activity. And then I think there's this kind of underrepresented aspect of it too, that is that it creates its own kind of phenomena in itself, which
Yeah.
is what you're touching on, which is the human haunting, and we've seen this a little bit more in pop culture recently with a focus on the egregore, and a lot of people talking about this concentration of living energy being able to manifest outside of ourselves. I think that happens. And then also with poltergeist activity, I think this happens a lot more often than we recognize. And
Yeah.
so I also think that it's triggered by heightened emotions, and that could be really anything. I'll kind of go into my odd emotions theory a little bit if you'll allow me to.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
my theory about odd emotions is that there are these strange, anomalous emotions that are often viscerally felt, that are, I believe, paranormal in nature, and that they can, through the paranormal emotive touch point theory, I theorize that these odd emotions can present themselves when the veil is thinner. So our own emotions are communicating to us that this is a time period in which we can communicate with the other side easier. And I also think that our own odd emotions, which are things like liminality, nostalgia, deja vu, synchronicity, euphoria, sorrow, like any kind of really strong collective effervescence, like really strong, visceral, weird emotions, they can also reverberate out and create kind of soft spots to the other side as well. So it's kind of like a two-sided coin. I think that weird emotions that humans experience, if we pay attention to them, the other side can communicate to us through them. And also, when we experience them, we can leave sort of like, I am thinking of, like, you leave, like, sorry, this is so crass, but like a little, like a poop. Like you
Okay.
leave a little emotional poop, like that
Okay.
sounds ridiculous. I've never explained it like that before. I'm just in a silly mood tonight,
Only on this
apparently.
show. Only on this show. Yeah.
But it's like, maybe it's because I made this new chair and it's the color of poop. I don't know. But but it's like you leave a little,
A
puddle.
nugget.
There we
A
go.
nugget.
Yeah, thank you. A puddle is a better way to explain this. What on
Okay.
earth? This isn't in the book, but you leave a little puddle of really visceral emotions
Yeah.
that you can then go touch back on. So that could kind of play into trauma and the idea of soul fracturing, which is a theory that has been written about before, which is that in moments of trauma, parts of our soul get fractured off. And there's these people who work to go retrieve parts of their soul and bring it back to them. Well,
Yeah.
I think that you can also use that as like a place or a moment in time to go back to and investigate paranormal entities as well. I think there's just a lot of
Yeah.
potential there. So that's a really long-winded answer. Sorry, but yes, I
That's
agree.
okay. Everybody in the paranormal is long-winded, so
Yeah.
perfectly acceptable here. Let me ask this: as you're talking about that, when you theorize that, okay, you can go back to a place where something happened and some person X left a puddle, in this location, right? Do you think so? If you were then to go visit that and investigate, because possibly the veil is thinner there, or a soft spot, like you were saying, right? Do
Mhm.
you Are you going back to a part of that memory and that time? Time is hard to kind of figure out there, but
Yeah.
are you kind of going back, like, if it's a traumatic experience, like when you go there, do you feel like, or maybe you've had experience with this, do you kind of feel what happened there? Are you experiencing the memory of what happened there? Do you know what I mean? You know what I'm
Yeah.
getting at? Like, do you
Yeah.
are you and are you is it in that time also? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
Yeah. So I think like there's two answers, probably more to this, but yes, I do think that there's an element of like trauma recall and like putting yourself back like that. I mean, that gets kind of into therapy methods of like
Yeah.
therapy and stuff like recalling that trauma. I think that that
Yeah.
can be effective if you can harness that, but I think that it gets a little difficult when you start doing that. And times it's been very few times when I've tried to use trauma as a tether or a soft spot for
Yeah.
me to investigate because it's hard to go into that more
Yeah.
objectively. I think more so for me when I'm thinking of these theories, it's more of a timeline thing, which is really unexplored and like kind of hard to articulate, I think, because we're all sort of starting to question more of this like time overlapping or like how does time play into the paranormal because it's got to be huge. I think we've had a lot of investigators lately too. I've seen content made about like these revelations being had that, oh, are we actually talking to ourselves, are we actually you know what I mean, and there's like
Yeah.
this big opening of that. And I think and I say I think like pridefully because like I truly don't know, and I will always tell
Yeah.
people I do not know, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. But I think part of this journey, the hero's journey within the paranormal, is about never figuring it out. Really, you just kind of like let it let you go through it with it. But yeah, I think there is something about time there that is relevant that I'm still trying to put into words, but
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a full answer to your question, but it gets me really
That's great.
excited. Yeah, it gets me really excited thinking about those things though, because I just
Well,
that's where I think there's so much potential.
yeah, and I think when you start getting into time and when you think about that, we probably just can't perceive. We're like infantile in
Hmm.
what we can perceive in
Yeah.
anything like that. And I was just curious as to what you thought. I believe and I don't know for sure, and I'm happy to say that too. And I appreciate that there's more people like you out there that are willing to admit that we don't know everything, but we can sure as hell try and figure things out. And if we don't, you mentioned the hero's journey. It's like, well, if I can put a couple pieces into the puzzle that fit, that's
Hmm.
awesome. But I kind of feel and believe in my experience with spirit, um, is ghosts. Well, let me just clarify: human spirits. Um, human spirits. I think what they do, why they do it, where they go, when they go, is all tied to their memories and their living experience. And so they tend to go to where they have memories with people, they have memories at a location, they have memories with animals, they have a memory of a time, they have a memory of I think I said a place, but um, and so I kind of think us living people, if we can kind of be conscious about that they're kind of going living through their memories. And here's a great example, and you tell me what you think. There's a spirit that's known to be at the Walker Ames house, and she says her name is Annabelle. She has said she's a lady. There is also evidence captured of an older sounding woman who has claimed her name is Anna, and an older sounding woman who has said she is the lady. And I think it's the same person. And I
Mm.
think they're just they're, I don't want to say living, but they're existing in different points of their memories. You know what I mean? That kind of
Yeah.
gets into time too.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? And we got a couple of good comments, but go ahead. What do you think about that? And like, that's what I think. That's what I got from. It was like a download for me.
Yeah.
I know you've done like automatic writing, but and it wasn't like that for me. It was just like it was a train of thought, and I
Yeah.
just had to get it down. But what do you think about that?
I think you're absolutely on it. Like I think I haven't thought about it like that myself necessarily, but it's interesting. It makes me think. Actually, today, last night, I had a dream, and I had a dream about a childhood classmate having been diagnosed with cancer, which was really dark, and hadn't talked to this person since I was 12, and that was last night. And I woke up, and all day today, I've been thinking, what about what? Why did I get connected to this person? And for me, I was thinking of nostalgia because that's what I write about. And I was thinking about, the nostalgia of the time that we experienced together and that the fact that that emotion could be a tether. But you make a good point in pointing out memory. And like I'm saying this and I can't even connect the dots yet as I'm saying it, but it's like I now to put it in that context, it's like there is something uh, like I mean obviously it triggered memories for me of this kid and knowing this
Hmm.
kid growing up and like why was I able to tap into that river of consciousness in that way for this person, perhaps memory and time and the fact that it's all kind of overlapping one another. It
Yeah.
has something to do with it. That yeah, that's not a fully like articulated thought yet, but like I think you're absolutely onto something, and I like that idea of like that even the human being, the soul, is remembering different parts of their story within the container of that house. And then as an investigator, you're going in, and as you go to a different room or you ask a different question, you're actually activating a different part of that person, that soul's memory.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's an interesting thought, and I it's not fully articulated for myself either. But will it ever be? Who knows? We got somebody overseas here. Ashraf, thank
Good
you for
morning.
tuning in. Yes, good morning to you. Hopefully, you get a nice cup of coffee. Um, and I like this from Michelle. She says, we haven't been around that long here. We're still primitive in the universe. We're basically fetuses in the universe. And then she said, feti, foti,
Fody. Yeah.
something. I mean, we have to remember that. But well,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been on this whole like memories kick the last couple years of like I don't know why, but I'm just like I keep getting like pushed to that thinking of you know, trying to figure out what the hell's going
You know what?
on,
You
out
just
there.
I don't mean to interrupt, but you just pinged
No, go
my
ahead.
my memory. You just pinged my memory in a really good way that I have to say out loud. And you're also glitching. There we go. Okay, you're back. You froze. It was very scary for a second. But so um this reminds me, I just said to my coworker recently, I was like, um, okay, I'll make this really short and quick, I promise. But um, this person came into my work. I won't say where I work, but I work a normie
Yeah.
job. And this person comes into my work, and then he leaves, and then my manager's like, that's so and so. And I was like, oh, I thought he was a weatherman. And she's like, what? Then she shows me him. He's in media. So she shows me him on YouTube. Turns out he was a weatherman in my town in Billings, Montana, when I was a child, when I was like 6 years old. And somehow I recalled that memory. And I actually have insecurities around my own memory. I don't have a great memory, and I have a lot of holes in it that I have to fill in due to trauma. And so
Yeah.
it's given me a lot of stress. So when she said, "Oh my God, you actually were right," and I was like, "Wow, I recalled this memory. Holy cow, that's so cool." I said to my coworker after that, I was like, this has been happening a lot. I've been recalling a lot of memories, and I said out loud, I wonder if it has something to do with the psychic channeling I've been doing, or
Yeah.
I've been doing more paranormal investigating. This also happened the same time I had like 10 events in the month of October. And I'm
Yeah.
like, and I said out loud something. I was like, maybe there's something to that. And it's not exactly what you're saying, but it's related, because I was like, I'm recalling memories better
Yeah.
now. And maybe there's something about exercising the brain or whatever, but the two do seem inherently
Yeah.
connected.
Well, I think it's all the above. And then, as far as, from spirit and in the work that you're doing, and, more investigations and that kind of thing, it's it's happening to you at the time it's supposed to happen. There's the word time again. But
Hmm.
so it's like, you almost have to figure out, okay, with the weatherman thing, why try and like think, why did it happen now?
Hmm.
And so it could be it's all a timing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Brian's got a cool one here. Interesting. I had a dream about a friend once I lost contact with, and a week later they found me and told me they were searching for years. And that's reaching out. That's, I think. What do you think about that? I mean, I would think it's like
Man,
that person's energy was like,
it's got
you
to
know,
be the other person. Yeah, I would feel like it's a tendril, a tentacle from the other person
yeah,
reaching out. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
but also then back to your point about the fact that maybe it was the right time for Brian, though, because why for years, I mean, maybe Brian would not have been as receptive, or was not in a place to be connected with
yeah,
this friend before. And then finally it's almost like I think of consciousness on a river a lot. It's just a way that I visualize it. And it's almost like, one boat is going, like one little paper boat's going down the river at one speed, and then the other one finally catches up to it, and
yeah,
they are on the same speed for a little bit. Sometimes I think the way that we reconnect with people is like that for some reason. So
yeah.
yeah.
And there may be, bigger things at play that we just don't understand. It, as far as the timing of things go. Now, so I wanted to touch on also more with your emotive touch points theory, paranormal emotive touch points theory. So you talk about, it's not necessarily, these odd emotions and these odd feelings. It's not necessarily associated with, like, that doesn't have to be a deceased human, you
Hmm.
know,
Yeah.
spirit or soul involved. Talk a little bit about that. Like, what if it's not human, of human origin, I guess I would say. Like, where do you kind of lean more to as far as what it is that's, causing this and the energy?
Sure. Well, to clarify a little bit, it's more so that I theorize that we can use our emotions as a means to connect with the other side easier, and that can be human spirits or otherwise. And it's just
Hmm.
that we don't need the presence, like the constant presence of a human spirit. So I'm presenting to people, you don't have to go to a haunted location where Annabeth, the spirit, is always there. Instead,
Right.
that you could be at home and you could experience a synchronicity, a meaningful coincidence. And in that
Yeah.
moment, if you were to stop and be like, whoa, hold on, that was freaky. I feel really weird. I feel odd. You pull out your equipment, you pull out whatever you vibe with, and you sit down and
Yeah.
you say, I would like to talk to the spirit of Annabeth from the Walker Ames house.
Hmm.
I believe, and it's in my experience, that our emotions and using them as like communicators, and also soft spots, that it can connect us to those spirits on cue,
Yeah.
basically, if they want to respond to it. Of course, these are spirits with agency and like, um, you know, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
But you
so
know,
it's like, yeah,
so you're kind of the way I'm kind of visualizing it is it's like you don't have to have a spirit of human origin as the tether on the other side, right? As kind of like the
yeah, no,
the
I
connector.
definitely, I don't think so. No, you can communicate with a spirit of human origin if you wanted to, but I also think that you can use a paranormal emotive touch point to communicate with Sasquatch, or especially
Yeah.
if you're of the belief that Sasquatch are psychic, or like there's some different theories on
Yeah.
cryptids and stuff.
Yeah.
I think you could communicate with aliens if that's your thing. If you want to, you know, beam up to the mothership and like talk to, because I know some friends who are really into that.
Yeah.
I think it can be anything. If you need to or want to connect with the energy of a Greek goddess of Hecate, like whatever it is that you want to connect with, if we use our emotions as our North Star, as our guiding
Yep.
light, and we let our living emotions sort of inform our paranormal research, I think we could be a lot more effective in it as a whole.
I love that, using our living emotions. Yeah, and I think right along with that as a North Star is I often talk about intent. So it's like being conscious of using your living emotions, but also being conscious of what your intent is. Like you say, if I wanted to try and reach out to Sasquatch
Hmm.
or UFO, extraterrestrials, that's my intent, and I'm going to use my emotions to kind of get there. I love how that
Yeah.
all kind
Yeah.
of ties together.
And I also think it's beneficial too, and you cannot manufacture this, but when you think about intent as well, I think that we're way more efficient and effective in our communication with the other side if our intent is also of goodwill and
Yeah.
of the intention to foster community and to build stronger relationships with the other side and with the living as well,
Yeah.
and that we operate from this place of like more connection, more positivity, more kindness, more love. Like psychics often say, it's all about love. And I wish they would expand on that sometimes, because it is about love, but it's not just
Yeah.
about love. It's like about caring. It's like how they say, like, when you get more spiritual, you kind of are softer. You are
Yeah.
kinder to animals.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you're kind to animals always. But like you kind of,
Right.
a lot of really spiritual people are vegetarian, whatever. But like, and I actually eat meat, so I don't know what I'm saying at this point. But like, yeah, I think intent is extremely important, both for the living beings on this planet as much as it is for who we're connecting with on the other side. And
Yeah.
community is like key, basically, to all of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I learned early on that, what you put out is often what you get back. And that
Hmm.
is dealing with living, that is dealing with the dead, the passed
Yep.
on, that's, anything. And I love that you brought up, extraterrestrials, and there's the CE5 method of, meditating and putting nothing but the absolute most positive vibes you can put out and love and you start to see things in the sky. I have
Hmm.
yet to be successful at it. I don't know what that means, but
Yeah, I have yet to be successful with anything like that. I've only had
yeah,
a few experiences, but I've
yeah.
still got work to do there.
I think it just takes a lot of practice and just
Hmm.
experience. So Ashraf here was just asking if you're a paranormal specialist, and so I would say go back and watch the beginning of the show. But yes, you are a paranormal specialist, and I love that they said specialist and not expert because I hate when people say
Yeah.
expert.
I've
Um,
never called myself an expert. I would
yeah,
feel so
it's
dorky if I did. No offense to any
yeah.
experts out there. I'm sure you are an expert of your
Yeah.
chosen
I
thing, but
exactly. Exactly.
I like specialists. Yes, I'm a specialist of the paranormal.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we got our friends at North by Northwest Paranormal. Hey guys, thanks for checking in. They
Hey.
were also at the Ghost Conference too. And wow, such a what a cool conversation. We'll have to do this again, and I think dive deeper, and then through before the next time I have you back on the show, maybe you'll have a lot more of your own experienced research.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I'm withholding a lot that's going to be in the book
okay,
too.
well,
So,
perfect. And that's
yeah.
August 2027, and it's
Hmm.
called Odd Emotions. And I'm going to put this up there for everybody. Um, Link to prettyeffandspooky.com. Make sure you follow Amanda. Great comments tonight, and thanks everybody for joining the conversation. Amanda, this was so cool. I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for taking time and the time that putting your chair together
Oh yeah.
for the
My
show.
chair, guys, I put this chair together right before I hopped on live, and I'm surprised it didn't fall out from underneath me. So
Well, it
tonight
was
was a
great.
success. Thank you for
Woo!
having me, Pete. It was great.
Yeah, and for everybody who's seen the show before, I always Ceremony PG, also at the Ghost Conference there in Port Gamble. Thanks, Dee Dee. I leave every show with a quote that's I had a different quote before, but when I brought my show back now, this quote is from my wonderful wife Molly, and I leave this with you all for this week: that the earth is heavy, but the universe is light. When met with stress or sorrow or even overwhelming joy, know that today is the history of tomorrow. Accept it for what it is and move forward into the brightness of the next moment. Take that with you, and I wish you all a great week, and be sure to stay tuned to sacredspiralnetwork.com. And we're here on the Paranormal Pete Show. And Amanda, thanks again. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, everyone.